Welcome to Season of Change, transforming your life through the power in the Word of God. I am your host, Evangelist Jeremiah Joseph from Nigeria, and I have my guest here with me tonight, came from United States of America, who lives in New York City. He's a speaker, Jeremiah Joseph from Nigeria, the director of Rays of Hope International. She's a speaker and an author of books, and one of her books is Cried Until You Laugh, Real Love, Real Pain, and Real Funny. And the other one is Love Is. And she will be here tonight to discuss. We'll be having a discussion on the topic, the real meaning of love and how you live it. That's the discussion we'll be having tonight. I welcome you to Season of Change platform. Kim.
Thank you so much, Jeremiah. It is wonderful to be here with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so love, it's a big topic, right? I mean, yes. Everybody loves somebody. Everybody loves all over the world. It's one of the things that's universal among all people everywhere. And I think we know what love is. I knew what love was, and we think we know. We love people, we love the closest to us, but everything that we learn about love is not necessarily right. And the things that we're taught by our parents, or we're taught by people around us growing up or throughout life. We're taught about love, but you don't go to the store and buy a manual on love. So we learn as we go, but not necessarily learning the true meaning of love. And I wanted to figure out, what is the true meaning? So I decided I would take a year and I would take that beautiful 2,000-year-old verse that we say in America at a lot of weddings. I don't know about in Nigeria, but it's said at a lot of weddings in the United States. And it's love is patient, love is kind, does not envy, does not boast, etc. And I decided to take it one word at a time to figure out, what is love that is patient? What is love that is kind? And most of the time that I was doing it, I was in Haiti. Most of the time I was doing the work on it. And what I figured out, Jeremiah, blew my mind and changed my life. Like, I figured out that anytime you take love is or love is not and put it with a word, it totally changes the meaning of the word. So love, as I understand it now, the kind of love that God has for us, the kind of love that we're supposed to have for each other, is so much deeper and broader and fuller than I ever knew, and much simpler than I ever knew at the same time. So would you like me to give you an example maybe of what I learned?
Yeah. Yes, we need examples.
All right, great. So the very first one is love is patient. And I thought I knew what patience meant. I thought I knew what that was. If you're patient, you're not honking your horn in traffic. You're not mad if you're ready to go and they're not ready to go. You're not sitting there angry and stomping your feet. You're being patient. But I figured out that love that is patient is entirely different than that. Love that is patient recognizes that, first of all, you love whoever you're with. So whether you and I are together, you're with your family, you're with somebody at the market, whoever it happens to be, you love whoever you're with enough that you recognize that this right now, right here, is the most important moment of your life. Everything that's in the past is in the past. Everything that's in the future is yet to come. And I don't know about you, Jeremiah, but I've had to really work on this one, because it's very easy for me to get distracted, to think, oh gosh, I got to stop at the store on my way home, or I have a meeting later, and not give you my full focus, not be fully focused with who I'm with. And I've really had to practice this and work at it to be completely here in the moment, to be completely present for you. That's love. That's me showing you love. That's me loving you. That is love that is patient.
Okay. Then what other examples do you have to give us on the issue of love.
Yeah, well, I can tell you a story, backing up just a little bit. I get asked often too, why I wrote a book on love, why of all things would love be what I would want to live a year of and write about. But a few years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. 4 months later, my husband was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and he passed away 6 weeks after that. And during that time is when I wrote my first book, Cry Until You Laugh. But during that time, for whatever reason, it really made me question the true meaning of love, because the depth of my love was so strong for my husband. But I wanted to know, was I doing it right? And am I doing it right in the future? And so I wanted to know what love really is. And in John says that God is love. So if God is love and we understand love, then love is not an emotion, like fear is an emotion, but love is who you are. Love is who God is. God is love, not God loves, or not God thinks about love, but God is love, is how it is. And so we can become love to each other, but we have to know what love is in order to do that. So that's why I went on this adventure to try to figure out what love really is. So the second word is love is kind. And I would take a word for the whole month. And so I tell the story of what happened that brought me to the conclusion that I came to, the reality, the truth of the meaning. So there's this place that I love to go in Haiti. It is in Port-au-Prince in the capital, and it's a home for sick children. And it's run by Mother Teresa's order, the Sisters of Charity. And I love to go there, and I look for one child. I love to go where the babies are, the little ones. And there's just all these cribs lined up. And I love to just go to one child and spend the day with the child and help with feeding and changing diapers and whatever. And so I went and I saw this beautiful baby, just beautiful, perfect features, perfect little hands and feet, and just beautiful, just sleeping, looked so peaceful in the crib, and this beautiful pink sleeper. And but I found out he was actually a boy. So probably that sleeper had been worn by some little girl at some point in time. And that's what the sisters had to be able to put on Christopher, his name was. And he had an IV, and he had oxygen going in his nose, and he was tiny. And I found out he was only 3 weeks old. And I looked over, and there was a woman standing there. And so then the story began to unfold about Christopher. And the woman that was standing there was Natalie. And Natalie is Christopher's grandmother. And Natalie had one child, her only child, a daughter, died shortly after giving birth to Christopher on the dirt floor of their home in Haiti. And then Christopher wouldn't take milk. And she at first thought maybe it's because it wasn't her daughter's milk, but it got worse. Things weren't getting any better. So she walked for miles and miles, I'm not even sure how far, to bring Christopher to this place, to the home for sick children. And the best they could figure out is that there must be some obstruction. And that's why he's not able to keep milk down. And so he would need surgery. And in the United States, that would be a really easy thing. Any hospital here, basically, if that were to happen, the baby would have surgery and be just fine. But in Haiti, healthcare is difficult and scarce. And so it's not just immediately available. And to many people, it's not available at all. And so here we are in the city, and a decision had to be made because Christopher could not breathe if the oxygen was not going in to his nose. He couldn't breathe. And so we needed a portable oxygen tank because there was a hospital nearby that said, yes, bring him and we'll do the surgery. So praise God for that. We were excited for that, but we needed a portable oxygen tank. So I called everyone I knew in Port-au-Prince, and I know a lot of people. And they called people and they went to stores and we looked everywhere and we could not find one portable oxygen tank in a city with 2 million people. We could not find one. And it was devastating because now the choice is, if Christopher stays here, he's gonna die. If Christopher goes to the hospital, he could easily die on the way because he would not be getting oxygen. So this poor grandma who just lost her daughter, her only relative now is Christopher, and she has to make this decision. And the decision was made to take a chance and take Christopher to the hospital because it was really his only hope. So they pulled up a van as close as they could to the door so that they could just grab and go as quick as they could. They had to drive a ways to get to the hospital. It wasn't like it was right next door, but they wanted to get there as quickly as they possibly could. And so when the van was ready, one of the sweet sisters undid the ID, took the oxygen out of the IV and took the oxygen out of his nose and scooped him up and ran to the door. And I'm watching all this go, and I'm watching this nun go with this beautiful baby Christopher, and I look over and Natalie is just standing there. And I'm like, Natalie, go, LA, LA. And then she pointed down at her feet and she was barefoot. She had no shoes. And she knew that they would not let her in the hospital without shoes on. So I took off my shoes and I put them in her hand and I grabbed her by the arm and I ran to the door and we ran out the door and she got in the van just as it was pulling away. And during that month, I'd been working on love that is kind. Love is kind. Love is kind. And we all do kind things. We know what kindness is, right? I mean, we try to be kind. You say kind words, you do kind things. But I realized that day that love that is kind has no expectations of receiving anything in return for your kindness. No expectations. So I knew I'd never see Natalie again, but of course I'd give her my shoes, of course, so she can go be at the hospital. Anybody would do that. But I realized the kindness that she showed me, knowing she'd never see me again, to let me share that beautiful day with that beautiful baby with her grandson, to let me stand there and hold her hand and hold Christopher's hand and love on them and us bonding over this baby without expecting anything in return. She didn't expect anything in return. The kindness that she showed me that day was love that is kind. So kindness is one thing. Love that is kind is a whole nother thing. So to have no expectations at all on your kindness. So I don't know about in Nigeria, but here I've heard people say sometimes they'll do something kind and then they'll say, oh, they didn't even say thank you. Or I went to their daughter's wedding and they didn't go to my daughter's wedding, you know, and so they're doing kind, but really expecting something in return.
Yes, it's happened here in Nigeria too.
Yeah. So but the minute you expect something in return, it's no longer kindness. That's no longer love. That's no longer love. It's you're doing something to get something. And if you're doing something to get something, that's not love. Love just gives without expectation of anything in return.
So I want to ask you some questions.
Yes.
We find out that today in the world today, there is plenty chaos going on everywhere. What do you think can be the solution to resolve all these things going on here and there, crisis in nations, within the states, even in communities, even in streets? We have some gangs, we have people that are neighbors that brings hatred between themselves. We have friends happening in the schools, even in our children's schools these days. And how do you think we can overcome all these things through love?
Well, I really do believe that love is the answer, but not love as necessarily everybody knows it, but real love, the truth of love. And there are a couple things about love, like there are a couple things within that poem. One is love is not proud. And there's another one that is love does not boast. And it's one thing to be proud of your daughter. Like I got to meet your daughter the other day, and then you showed me your daughter because you're so proud of your daughter. And she's beautiful, cute little, what did she, 4 months old? Is she 4 months old? She's so beautiful. She's just beautiful. And you're proud of her and you want to show her off. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But the minute your pride or boasting becomes saying something that makes you elevate above somebody else, makes you better than somebody, the minute you say, I know everything, you know nothing, or the minute you say, my opinions are all correct, yours are wrong, or the minute you say, my country is right, your country is wrong, what you're doing is you're saying, we're not all equal, but we are all equal. We are all walking on the same ground, and we are all made in his image, and we are all equal. And the moment you say that you are better, you know more, you're smarter, you're more equipped, whatever it happens to be, you're saying that you're better. And so that elevates you and it puts the other person down. And that is not love. Love would say, we are all equal. Love would say, the lines on the map, God didn't put lines on the map. We drew the lines on the map. We like to put labels on people. I'm American, you're Nigerian, I'm, Christian would be a label or whatever. But really, we're Jeremiah and Kim. That's who we are. We're Jeremiah and Kim. It doesn't matter the country that we're from or what political party we support. Or in the United States, there's controversy over getting vaccines for COVID or not getting vaccines for COVID. And people are losing friends and relationships are being destroyed over these things, over politics and over political matters and over COVID. And there's not a reason for that, because love would listen. And when you really listen to somebody, you hear their words, you're no longer just imagining what you think they know, but you're letting them voice their opinion. And what it should do for you is you should gain understanding of why they believe what they believe. Because when it comes down to it, I can't control what you believe. You can't control what I believe. We only control ourselves, right? But if we stop and listen to each other, I think we learn a lot. I think people that are in war with each other have a whole lot more in common than they realize that they do, because it's not having a conversation, everything's a confrontation. And love makes it so that you can have conversation, so you can talk, and you don't have to agree. You don't have to, but you don't have to fight. Love doesn't care. Love doesn't care about political parties or who's president of what country or king or what gang is in charge or none of that stuff, or even that somebody is a gang member or whatever it is. Love doesn't care. Love does not judge and it does not condemn. Love just strictly loves. And that's what we are supposed to do for everybody, is just love. And if we did that, we'd put down the guns, we'd put our fists to our sides, and we'd just have conversation and learn why is this conflict even happening? And is it really valid? Because a lot of times things get amped up, right? Pumped up bigger than what they are. But love would bring things down and keep it cool and allow for conversation when you just love the person you're with.
Okay. Now I want to talk about relationship, marriage. We find out today that many women are living in their marriage, but without love. Maybe the husband is not loving the woman as supposed or the wife is not loving the husband as supposed. What can you say about this?
Yeah, that's a problem. I think that's probably a problem worldwide. And, sometimes people divorce. I don't know what divorce is like in Nigeria, but our divorce rate here is pretty high. And
Yeah,
yeah, is it there? Is it in Nigeria too? Is it an issue?
no, it's not that high, but there are people are divorcing because the rate of the problems of economic and issues of, let me say it, marriage without foundation in Christ, all these things are, and neglect in cultural diversity. So all these things are problems.
Yes, yeah. Well, and at the beginning, they say you're in love, right? Like people will say that they fall out of love, that they were in love, that they loved when they got married, they loved, but then they fell out of love. Well, love isn't something that you fall into or out of. Love just should be who you are. And I think so often expectations play a big role. When you expect your spouse to behave a certain way, say a certain thing, do a certain thing, and they don't do those things, then you can get angry. But the reality is, nobody is a mind reader. And so if you're not communicating your expectations, if you're not saying, I want you to help around the house, or I really need you to, can we talk about how we're going to raise our kids, or deal with money, or whatever the situation is. If you don't have the conversation, your spouse has no idea what you expect. And you bring these two families together, right? That can be raised completely different in completely different households. And you bring these two people together, they love each other, they get married, but then they get irritated by little things that they're not used to. Now, love does not easily anger, for one thing. And love also does not keep record of wrongs. And when you are in a relationship and something happens and you argue and you start to fight, well, first it starts with a conversation, and then voices can get louder, words can get nastier, right? And before you know it, you're being loud toward each other, and your blood pressure is rising, and endorphins are running wild, and things are happening in your system because you've allowed yourself to get so amped up. And then before you know it, you're saying, well, and then 6 months ago, you didn't take the trash out. And 3 weeks ago, you didn't do this. And 5 years ago, when I wanted you to do that, you weren't there. And all this stuff comes up from the past. Well, love doesn't keep a record of wrongs. So the stuff that's in the past needs to stay there. Leave it there, leave it behind. Deal with it when it comes, deal with it and let it go. If you're 5 years out from it, you're 5 years out from it. I mean, hopefully in 5 years, I'm better at loving, right? I mean, you hope that all the time you grow better at it, better at being a spouse. I had a time in my marriage that I wasn't sure that I wanted to stay married. I married this guy, fell in love, using those words. I loved him so much. So I loved him. Didn't always love him the right way though, but I loved him. And then the day-to-day kind of stuff happened, right? The cleaning the house and taking care of the kids, and I don't know, it just kind of gets mundane, and there's no more romance or whatever's happening. And so it's just day to day. And I thought, guy, do I really want to be married to this man? I'm not sure that I'm happy. But I decided I wanted a great marriage. I wanted to have a great marriage. And if I wanted to have a great marriage, it was going to be up to me. And so I decided that I would do everything I could to make my husband happy, everything I could, without expecting anything in return. If he ever gave me anything, then he would give me something. So I didn't like put a time limit on it and think, okay, I'm going to go full out, do everything I can for him to make him happy. And if in 3 months he's not giving it back, then I'm done. I didn't put a time on that. I just determined for the rest of my life, this is what I'm going to do. is do everything to make him happy. So I would do little things like go to the market and buy his favorite candy, or make his favorite dinner, or leave a little note for him before he went to work, or anything, you know, make sure that I would even have his slippers ready by the door, or, you know, just little things, just all the little things that you can do for somebody. And, you know, even though I didn't expect anything, before I knew it, things changed dramatically in our relationship. And I think it's because I changed so dramatically in our relationship. I loved him again, and my love deepened for him, and my appreciation for him. And yeah, he did respond. And yes, he was the most wonderful man. I mean, our marriage from that moment on was fantastic, because my heart changed, my heart softened toward him, the way that I should love him. That came back to me, that love came back. I think so often in a marriage, we think it needs to be like what we see on TV or what we see in movies, and all this romance going on and all this, you know, honey, you look beautiful, you know, whatever. And day-to-day stuff that doesn't necessarily happen. Your hair is a mess and you don't have makeup on and you're wearing sweatpants and, you know, whatever. And you used to get all dolled up, all pretty, you know, to go out on a date. And then now you get married and here she is in her sweatpants, right? But she's still the same woman inside. She's still that woman that you love. And if you let your love grow, if you are still the man that you were that she married.
Okay, the Bible said husbands should love their wife. And I want to ask a question here. Is it must that the woman must love her husband?
Absolutely.
Because the Bible said, husband, love your wife, and the wife submit to your husband. Now, we find some marriages that the husband may complain, the man may be complaining that my wife doesn't love me, she's not having affection in her heart to me. Or why is it that men are expecting that the women should love them back, while the Bible said the woman should submit?
Well, you know, you could probably talk to a lot of different people and get a lot of different answers for that, because, you know, the Bible is such an incredible book of books, right? And we get so much from the Bible, from the Old Testament and the New Testament, and you can learn a lot of things. But the translation, the interpretations can be different. Like the way somebody might see submissive, to submit to your husband, is different than somebody else would interpret submit to your husband. If there's love, if you both love each other, because absolutely wives love your husband, of course. You know, how many times did Jesus say, love one another? In fact, when Jesus was asked, what's the biggest thing we can do? You know, Lord, there's 671 or whatever the number is, laws in the Old Testament. There's all these laws in the Old Testament. How do we know when we're sinning? Like, what's the number one? What's the biggest thing that we can do? And Jesus' reply was, love God and love each other, love one another. And he was quoting Leviticus way, way back, that early in the Bible. Leviticus is this book that has all these laws, you know, like certain times of a month, the woman has to sleep outside in a tent, don't eat this kind of food, don't eat that, you know, whatever. And then, and one of the laws was to love one another. That's one of the laws right in Leviticus. Yes. And so Jesus was referring back to, that's the law, that's the one. These other things, Jesus kind of made complete, right? Because he said, with God, there's nothing that is clean and unclean. You know, there were things that used to be considered unclean, you know, food that was unclean, meat that was unclean, you know, certain habits that were unclean. But God said, no, wait a minute. with me, there is no clean and unclean. And so love one another. That includes wives to husbands. And if you love, really love with all your heart, love with your being, become love to your spouse, marriage will be a great marriage. You get to make that choice, right? We all get to choose whether or not we want a great relationship. If you love, you should have one. But who wants to live in a crappy relationship? But better to stay and figure it out, probably. Figure out a way to stay. Be determined that if you want a great relationship, have one. But you have to make it happen. Don't wait for your spouse to make it happen. Everything has to start with you, right? So, yeah. So if you do and you love, you're going to be loved back. You'll be loved back. And if you're not, you're not. But you love. That's the important thing, is that you love.
Okay, thank you very much, Kim. I want to ask you some few more questions, then maybe we'll bring this interview to a close. Sometimes some people use this language that I finally find out that you don't love me. Maybe a man telling his wife, and I want to ask, is it that the love between them fade out, or at the point the love got missing? What happened in such a relationship?
I think what can happen often is that we see what we think marriage should be, right? We have a picture in our mind of what our marriage is going to look like and what our lives will look like. And then if that picture gets a little cloudy or changes altogether, then we think, how can we love that? Because that's not what we expected. That's not what we wanted. But that's not what marriage should be. That's not what love should be. I mean, do you have somebody in your life? That's a treasure. That's a gift. To have one person who is your biggest fan, who goes to bat for you, would do anything for you, that is a gift. That is something to be honored and treasured, and realize what a wonderful thing that is, and what a sad thing to then give away. There's a saying here in the United States, the grass is greener on the other side. And it means that you can look at other couples, or you look at another woman, or you look at another man, and you think, oh gosh, if my life were with them, I'd be so much happier. If I did that, I'd be so much happier. But the grass isn't greener. It's not. You got married for a reason, and you get to choose. Are you going to choose to be love to your spouse and have a happy marriage? Be excited to see each other. You remember those days when you were first together and you were so excited to see each other, and you couldn't get your wife off your mind. You couldn't get your husband out of your head. You were just so excited to see them. That never has to go away. That never has to go away. When you love somebody the right way, when you are loved to somebody, you're excited to see them. You can't wait to see them. That's a good thing. You can bring that back. You don't have to lose that. You can bring it back. Love is the way. Real love is the way.
Okay. I want to ask you this question now. There's a saying that said, love heal wounds. Is that true?
I think that is true. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of people living with pain in their hearts, but yet they are being loved, but the love never healed their wound. Why?
Well, it depends on what's in your own heart, right? So like, love doesn't keep a record of wrongs. That's a big one. That's a big one. When I was working on that one, I was kind of afraid of that one. Like, what does that possibly mean? Because we don't forget the things that have happened to us, right? So
yes.
In a marriage relationship, everybody goes through stuff. I mean, it happens. And but if you live in those moments, if you let bitterness come in, if you stay angry about that, you're only hurting yourself. Bitterness can do physical damage to you, not just mental and emotional damage to you. It can actually do physical damage to you. Bitterness is a nasty thing that nobody should ever want to live with. Nobody wants to live with bitterness. But we don't forget what happened. And sometimes bad stuff happens to us. And then we can just live in that and dwell on it and go back to it and never get over it. But I believe love doesn't keep record of wrongs. And what that means is, yes, that happened. Yep, you're never going to forget that. That happened. But instead of the bitterness, the story changes, the narrative changes. And instead of it being, oh my gosh, he's the worst person ever because he did this to me 5 years ago, whatever it is, and I'm still angry and I'm still bitter. Instead of that, you're going, yep, this happened. You're not going to forget it. Yes, this happened, but I learned from it. I grew from it. You know, I know how to act in a different way. Like the narrative changes, the story softens, and it's no longer bitter and angry. It's just something that happened. It's something that happened, and get something out of it. Make it turn into a positive. And don't have ill will. Don't hold on to those feelings. Hold on to that bitterness. It's destroying you, and love does not do that. Love is not bitter. Love lets it go. You got to let it go.
Okay, thank you very much. This will be the second to the last question that we ask on this platform. We have some people living with trauma of abuse in their hearts, and yet maybe their counselor, doctors, and maybe their pastors try to show them love, but yet this trauma keep them down. Anytime they remember these things, it will still break them down. What do you think, or what kind of love can we show to these people in order to take away this trauma or to clear this trauma from their heart?
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. People that live through any horrible trauma, it's so sad. It's sad that such bad things can happen to people, right? And it is hard for the person who it's happened to. But if you can get to a point as a person who's been victimized, as a person who's suffered trauma, if you can get to a point where you realize that that's something that happened to you, but that's not you, it's not your fault, and it's not you, it's something that happened to you, that's when you can begin to heal, right? And for all the rest of us with somebody who's suffered trauma, the more we can be love to them, real love, the real way, things will open up, things will change, but never stop trying. Love always perseveres. Love never gives up hope. Love always hopes that there will be healing for this person that you love, that there will be healing from this trauma. Always perseveres, always sticks with that person. Doesn't say, forget it. You know, they're not getting over it. I can't take it anymore. It's too much work for me. Love doesn't do that. Love doesn't leave. Love sticks around and says, how can I love you more? And by showing that love and giving love constantly giving love, the more people are surrounded by love, the more they feel worthy of love. And you need to feel worthy of love, right? And when you suffer trauma, sometimes you don't feel worthy of love. But the more you are around it, the more you will feel worthy of it.
Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate your presence here. And lastly, I want to ask you this question. The Bible said in the book of Timothy that the perilous time shall come, and at this time the love of many will wax cold. And I see that these days people no longer have love for Jesus. What do you think will be the solution to this, to restore back the love of Christ to the heart of people? How can we do this?
Yeah.
Or how are we going to do this? Or what is the way out?
Right. It's pretty interesting, isn't it? I mean, you know, there are a lot of people that maybe were raised in a church, were raised as a Christian from a young age and become disillusioned with the church, but the church isn't Jesus, or become disillusioned with religion, but Jesus isn't religion, or look at religious people or church people and go, wow, you know, they're judgmental, or that's not who I want to be. But that's not Jesus. Jesus is separate from religion and the churches and whatever. And Jesus is love, because God is love. So I think that demonstration over proclamation, that's what I always think. The more you can be Jesus to others, which it means that you're living love, that you are love to others, the more you can be Jesus to others, the more open they will be. And the more they will feel that love, the love of God, because you're sharing it. And I think rather than standing on the street corner with a Bible in your hand and saying, you must believe or you're going to go to hell, nobody wants to hear that. But if they see that we as Christians are living love and we love everybody, no matter what their faith or not faith, whether they're Buddhist or Muslim or whatever they happen to be, atheist, it doesn't matter. We're supposed to love everybody. It doesn't say love Christians, you know, only love people that love Jesus. Jesus didn't say that. We're supposed to love everybody without judgment, which I think is total freedom. To not judge, to not be the person standing there going, you're in, you're out, you're out. I'll love you because you're worthy of it, but you're not worthy of it. Everybody's worthy of love. Everybody's worthy of love. You should give your love freely to everybody. And the more we can do that and realize we're not the judge and let people live the life that they were created to live. Let people be who they are. Everybody is not going to be exactly like you, Jeremiah. Everybody, praise the Lord, is not going to be exactly like me, right?
Yes,
Let
yes.
people be who they are. We're all created to be who we're supposed to be. Let people be who we are and then love them where they are and for who they are.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me add this to it. The Bible said love covereth all sins. But we find out that today, many are not giving up on the offenses that maybe their spouse, their friends have done to them. And you know, while we read the Lord's Prayer, it said, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And this act of love within that stage, we need to show love in order to forgive others that trespass against us, so that we can gain the love of God, the one that can forgive all sins. But these days we find out that people find it difficult, despite the fact that they claim they love someone, they find it difficult to forgive their trespasses. The love in their hearts is not able to cover their sins. What do you think is the cause? Just in 2 minutes, just say something about it.
Yeah, so I think the minute you think you need to forgive somebody for something, you're kind of passing judgment on them. You know, like if somebody behaves a certain way, that's on them. That it's not on you, right? And so love would just say, move on. Love would just say, love the person no matter what. It doesn't mean you have to hang out with them all the time. You know, it doesn't mean you have to be best friends, but you don't harbor ill will, don't harbor unforgiveness, let it go and still love. Don't stop loving because something happens. You can still love, but don't judge. Just love. Just love. Their actions are their actions. You have no control. We have no control over anybody but ourselves. So what other people do, they do. That's up to them. Don't let it hurt you. Don't let it take away the love that you have to give.
Thank you very much, Kim. We're happy having you on this platform, Season of Change, transforming your life through the power in the Word of God. That is from Nigeria. And I want to once again to tell you that our guest tonight, she is the director of Rays of Hope International. She's a speaker and she's an author and she's a lover of life. She's married, but our husband, our beloved husband, is late, though the love is still in her heart. And I believe that God will console you and keep you, ma'am, and grant you long life. You will see many goodness in the land of the living by the grace of God. She's a woman that published 2 books. One is Love Is, and the other one is Cry Until You Laugh. And we'll be displaying our books, part of our books, in our magazine that is coming up. That is the Rising Sun magazines. We'll be sending out the copies and a link how you can get our books. We want you to order it, get part of our books. We've gone through our biography, our profiles on our website, and we've seen people sharing testimony. Even this evening, we still saw a message that somebody sent to her about the testimony that the person is sharing, how God restored their family through the message in the book. And I want you to buy this book so that you can learn more of it and understand more about love. I pray that the love of God in our hearts will not go down and will not diminish. And the love of God towards each and every one of us, our neighbors, our friends, our siblings, our mothers, fathers, and everyone around us will continue to increase. And the love of God in our heart for our nations will continue to increase. Kim, I say thank you very much. You're welcome once again. Thank you. We really appreciate your presence and your time given unto us to be here on this platform. Thank you. Can you briefly say the word to our audience and all those that will watch this program after?
Yes, I just want to say thank you so much, Jeremiah. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for doing this show that you do. If people haven't heard other shows that you've done, they should tune in because you're amazing. You have great words to say. You're a wise man who obviously has a whole lot of love for everybody. And so it's been an honor to be here with you.
Thank you very much, Kim. We really appreciate your time. We really appreciate your time. I believe we'll plan to have you once again on this platform so that we can still talk more on the issue of love, because we know that today a lot of things is ravaging our homes, even our churches, our communities, our nations, that this love is no longer existing. And that is why we cannot cohabit ourselves, even in our communities. You see nations rising against nations, people in the neighborhood, and your next door neighbor, you cannot trust the person. And because the love is not there again, we find it difficult having things to do with each other. Everybody wants to get a reward for the love he has for another person. But I would like you to come again on this stage, on this platform, so that we can talk more about it. And I pray that God will keep us till we meet again. And I know that it's not going to be too long because I know that you are a busy person. And I thank you for squeezing your time for us. I know we'll make a date. I'll go through your schedule, your calendar on your profile and on your site and make another booking to have you on this platform. I really appreciate you, ma. Thank you. I know that one day you'll visit us in Nigeria, and that will be soon, not too long. Thank you.
Yeah, well,
God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma. Thank you.